Today we're making quinoa cakes. I learned this technique from the wonderful Mark Bittman. He doesn't mention it, but I have a hunch that this dish was a result of a brilliant rescue of some terribly overcooked quinoa that turned so viscous that it didn't need an egg as a binder. Well, I'm not vegan and could use an egg, but I find that this technique produces tastier quinoa cakes. This is also a great vehicle for leftover veggies. Just make sure that they're cut small, already cooked, and in case of watery leafy greens like spinach or Swiss chard, drained of excess moisture. Today I'll use braised red cabbage with sour cherries that we made in the previous video. But first let's cook, or should I say overcook, our quinoa. We'll need white quinoa. Red and black won't produce the same consistency. I know you've always been told to wash quinoa, but in the US almost all white quinoa comes already pre-washed. And my ratio of water to quinoa assumes that you are not washing. If you wash, you'll end up with too much water in this recipe and the consistency won't be right. Let's add the salt and 2 1/4 cups water. This is more water than normally necessary for quinoa, but remember, we're shooting for overcooking here. Cover the pot and set over high heat. Watch it carefully, but don't open the lid. As soon as you see the whiffs of steam start to escape, turn down the heat to low. You don't want to miss this moment or the pot will boil over. Start your timer for 30 minutes. Yes, that's longer than usual for quinoa. As soon as the timer goes off, open the pot and stir the quinoa. This helps it turn sticky instead of fluffy. If you're adding the veggies, this is the time to stir them in. If you don't have any veggies on hand, add some thinly sliced scallions, chopped herbs, and a squeeze of lime juice. Taste your mixture for salt and acidity. I felt like mine needed some help, so I added a tablespoon of grainy Dijon mustard, a pinch of salt, freshly ground black pepper, and a tablespoon of olive oil. When you're done mixing everything in, the mixture should feel like shaggy dough. Cover it with a damp paper towel and wait just until it's cool enough to handle, about 15 minutes. If the mixture cools off too much, it will harden and become difficult to shape. Should that happen, set the pot over low heat and warm it up gently, stirring occasionally. There are many ways to shape these cakes. The ring mold is probably the easiest. Put a dollop of quinoa mixture into the ring mold and pat it in. Make sure to tuck the edges in with your fingertips so that they don't stick up. If you have a 1/4 cup measuring cup, you can use it to flatten the top of the cake. Lift the ring mold and touch up the edges so that they don't stick up. It's important to make sure the top and bottom of the cakes is perfectly flat to help them brown evenly when the time comes to fry them. If you don't have a ring mold, you can also use a 1/4 cup dry measuring cup to help you shape. Fill it with quinoa, packing it tightly. Flip into your hand and pat it into an even shape. To help you avoid the flying saucer shape, you can cup the cake with your thumb and forefinger while flattening the top and bottom with the other hand. Once all your cakes are shaped, set them on a cutting board lined with plastic wrap, foil or parchment paper, and put them in the fridge uncovered for at least 2 hours to firm them up, or freeze them for 30 minutes. If you're storing them for less than 24 hours, keep them uncovered. This prevents them from getting damp and helps them brown. After 24 hours, the cakes should be dry enough and you can cover them with plastic wrap. To cook the cakes, we'll need a non-stick pan. Add enough oil to make a thin film on the bottom of the pan. I'm using grapeseed oil, but canola, safflower, and other high-heat oils are all good. When the oil starts to shimmer, add quinoa cakes in a single layer. Please be gentle. If you drop them, they could break. Tilt the pan as necessary to make sure each cake has oil under it. Cook without disturbing until they brown, 2 to 3 minutes. Don't worry about a few dark spots. Really wait for them to get crunchy. Very gently pick them up with tongs and flip them over. You can certainly use a spatula, but I find that I have more control with tongs. If tongs isn't your favorite food handling tool, it's probably because you have lousy tongs. Adland is my favorite tongue company and they're available on Amazon. No, don't worry, I don't get any money from Adland to say that. Once the second side browns, get the cakes out of the pan and serve. Since I am not vegan, I like to top my cakes with Greek yogurt or Labne topping, but you can certainly keep it vegan by piling some extra braised red cabbage on top, or some caramelized onions if you have them on hand. The links for all these accompaniments as well as my favorite tongues are below the video. A sprinkling of pecans will accentuate the crunch, a little mint garnish, and the drizzle of pomegranate molasses on top. This brightens up the dish with acidity. Besides, playing with squeeze bottles is fun. Plant-based foods are so versatile. It's amazing how many different flavors and textures you can create with them all in one dish. These are very similar in texture to falafel, but without the need for deep frying. Next week, we'll learn to cook lentils and make one of my favorite vegan Middle Eastern dishes called majadra. So don't forget to subscribe to Helen's Kitchen channel. And if you're ever in the Boston area, well, maybe I'll see you in my beans and grains class.